morning, everyone. This is Emily from Grammy's Garden. I just got inside and took a shower. I was out cutting cabbages. It was a nice cool morning, but we're supposed to start really heating up. I always give a weather report. I don't know, it's just part of who I am. Sorry about that. But I'm gonna just do a little bit of kraut making here. I'm doing it as the cabbages get ready. And I thought you might like to just come along with me. So here we go. Okay, this morning out of my garden, this cabbage is early on a cabbage, and I went out this morning early, and these are nice firm heads. Beautiful, beautiful head of cabbage. This one had very little insect damage on it, very little, but I'm going to take off a few more leaves. You could just cut this area out where you see like little insect bites, but I'm gonna go ahead and take it down. I wanna see if I can find whatever that is that did that. Now, I'm not gonna save these leaves. I will save a few leaves though, however. Okay. That looks just almost perfect to me. So let's start chopping cabbages. I'm gonna do a head at a time. What I've found is that one head of my cabbage, these are early on it, and they're about 2 pounds is about what you can expect to get. So I am going to go ahead and count on about one head is going to equal 1 quart. So I'm going to just shred this and show you how I go about it. I think with this particular quart, I'm going to add some carrots out of my garden as well. I made a quart last week, and what I did is I added caraway seed because I do like it like that. So we'll get started on the chopping process. I may take this camera and this cabbage and sit down and do it at the table. Hi, this is Emily. I'm already here. I've got a clean jar washed with hot soapy water and rinsed well. I've got this little silicone top that I'll set on it so that the cabbage can vent as it's fermenting. And I'm gonna set that right here in front of me. I'm sitting at the table. And then I've got the weight. It's a glass weight that'll keep it submerged, the kraut submerged. I call it kraut and cabbage interchangeably, forgive me. I gotta take a sip. What do you think about this pretty cup my daughter gave me for my birthday in March? She even gave me a tiara. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying it was very sweet. So the other thing that I need is salt, and I've got canning salt here. You don't want any salt that's got iodized, or you don't want to use salt that has anti-caking properties. And I wasn't even sure if my sea salt had that anti-caking. So I decided to use just canning salt. Want to be safe with this. I started these from seed. I don't want anything to happen to them. So I'm going to cut it up into quarters. Isn't that a beautiful head of cabbage? It just looks perfect to me. It may be the most perfect head of cabbage that I've grown this year. So I said that I was going to quarter it. This thing is so tight, and I had to stand up and get some leverage to get it going. My grandma used to make kraut in a crock. She had a crock, and I can't remember if she kept that in her spring house or not. The spring house is where they kept things cold. I don't remember that. And my mom made kraut. Again, my mom made it using a crock, and my aunt gave me a crock. My aunt gave me a crock last year, and I was going to be making pickles in it, and my pickles didn't turn out. I just am the worst dill pickle maker ever. You won't. They're soft. I think I'm onto something. I think I process them too long. I think I water bath them too long. I cook them and they turn. So I think I may try fermented pickles this year, and also the recipe that I normally would use. But anyway, that's for another day. Let's sit here and enjoy this process. So look at these. Wouldn't these make some nice cabbage steaks? Okay. I'm going to save some of these outer leaves, and you'll see how I will put it over the kraut. I'm going to set this aside. Everything is really clean. It's not sterilized, okay? You don't have to have things sterilized, but you want any visible dirt and debris off of it. I don't want to wash away all that good bacteria. Okay, I think I've taken enough leaves off for this. I see a little spot there, so I'm going to get rid of it. Any little thing, it's just a little brown spot. Don't know what it is, but you want to be sure you get any visible thing off of there. I'm going to just put these here and put these here, start cutting. And I want to move this so you can see me. So anyway, my grandma didn't have any way of keeping things cold except the spring that came up out of the ground. And that was the drinking water. And it also kept the butter cold and the milk cold. And then she did have an ice box, but I don't know how often they got ice. This is down in the Ozark Mountains, down in Shannon County. And that's where I lived until I was in my early teens when we moved to Central Missouri for my dad's work. And I never got over missing it. I didn't know how much I missed it till I got older. And then I really missed it. Okay. Fortunately, I get to go down there fairly often. And my grandparents' old farm, and it was, part of that farm was my grandmother's parents' homestead. And it was a homestead, all right. Little bitty cabin. And I think she had 13 children. Not my grandmother, my great-grandmother. They all didn't make it. Some of them passed away. But anyway, there's the current owners who've owned it a long time now are really good about letting me and my sister and I go together, or my children and I go, and we go back up there to the house no longer stands. It's been gone a long time. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this chopped up, sliced up, and then I'm going to show you how to pack it into jars. First, I'll show you the additives. The only thing I'm adding to this is carrots, and I've got my carrots in another bowl. And I just have 2 small carrots about this big that I just shaved that I'm going to put in it. I think it's a pretty color, and it gives just some extra nutrition too. I'm just halfway through on this head. So what I'm going to do now is I've got my tablespoon over here, and it's a tablespoon of salt per quart is what I use. Sometimes I've just used like 2 good-sized teaspoons. And I want to be sure that I don't do too much, so I'm just putting part of this tablespoon. And I'm just going to take it and put it over it. Some people will do that, and then they'll walk away and just leave that there. They kind of mix it with your hands, and you make sure your hands are real clean. And go in and mix that, and then they'll walk away from it. Well, time prohibits that for me, you know. It's like I really don't feel like I can, all day long am I going to be doing this and walking away and coming back to it. I got other things to do. So what I do is I just get my hands down in there and I start breaking it down. Like whenever I squeeze that, look at do you see the water? There's water on it, on my hands, because it's already releasing. The salt's helping that release and come on out, release the juices and come out. And I do have a kraut pounder, they call it. I think they call it a pounder. That came in the kit my daughter got me. And I used that last week, and that really helped me to get it really broken down well in the jars, or jar. I'll show you that jar when I'm done. I hope I remember to do that. This is real solid, good cabbage. Now, I have bought cabbage from the store and made kraut 2 years ago around this time I did. And it was the first time I'd ever made kraut. And then last summer I fermented a lot. I didn't just do cabbage, I also did, and I didn't have a good outcome with my cabbages last year. So I did my own homegrown ones though. But I also did peppers, and I still have jars of those in the refrigerator. They end up tasting kind of pickled, like pickled peppers. So it's breaking down, and I want to start seeing it have some water in the bottom or juice in the bottom, and I don't see it yet. So I'm just going to keep on doing this. So I'm going to do some more squeezing the cabbages, and then I'll be right back. Okay, this first, I'm ready to put in another layer, but this first layer, let me show you when I pick it up. See the juices come out when I squeeze it? And I'm chewing some because it sure does taste good. Okay, ready for the next batch to go on top. I have cabbage everywhere, I'm gonna tell y'all. I usually do this at the sink, but today I thought I'm gonna sit down and do this. It may not have been the best plan, but it'll work. I'm not gonna switch in midstream, that's for sure. And I'm thinking this is gonna make more than a quart. Almost for sure it's gonna make more than a quart. I think my cutting mat needed side rails on it. That, as I hear some people say, that's real life, you know. All right, so I'm gonna put a little more carrots in. Like I said, I grew these in my garden, and these are some I used to thin out the other day. I pulled them. I used them as thinning, and they're working good for me in this. Now, I do have a food processor. I'm really bad about not getting something out and using it, simply because it's more trouble to get it out. That's how I kind of look at it. Maybe I'm just wanting to do it the way my grandma did it, or my mom did it. What do y'all think? Do you think it gives you some good arm strength? I think it does. I think it gives you really good arm strength and hand strength. And this hand has been broken and was not repaired. I fell on the ice going after my little dog Sissy that I've talked about in my videos, and I've done a couple little videos of her. She's over there watching me. She's blind, almost totally blind, so she can't watch me too much, but she's looking in my direction. And she can't hear, so I can talk about her. I can talk about her all I want. She doesn't hear a thing unless it's a really loud crash. Like if I drop something, that would startle her out of sleep. Okay, I'm gonna keep on working out these hand muscles, and I'll be back. Okay, I've got a funnel here, and I've got liquid in the bottom, but not as much as I think it could do. I'm gonna definitely use this crusher over here. But there's quite a bit down there once I start picking this out. And this is only 3/4 of a head of cabbage. That head of cabbage was bigger, because about 2 pounds will make a quart. So this is more. This is going to be more than 2 pounds, because I've got this, and then this is the remainder. Now I cut out the core. Sometimes some people will put the core down in it. I don't, and you look up what you think about that. I don't do it, but some people do. Some people just save the core and put it down in stews and stuff. Now I'm doing this in small mouth lids. And you want to push it. I may stand up to get more leverage on it. Now this is working my trapezius, and I'm an RN, and I kind of sometimes just think these weird nursing thoughts, even or anatomy thoughts, even though I've been retired 10 months, I guess. So, well, I don't know. That fluid is coming, liquid is coming right up in there. Really good. I want it where it's going to cover. I want it to cover this up. And once I cover it, when I say cover it, I mean, I want the liquid from the cabbage to cover it. Sometimes you may have cabbage that it's not got enough moisture to do that. And then some people will mix up a little brine and put that on top of it. And I've seen comparisons done, like which one looks different in the jar. One that was done purely with the juices or with a little brine added. And there is a little difference, and they say there's a little difference in the tanginess, but it ferments. You just want to be sure that you use the water that you use doesn't have so much chlorine that it won't allow your organisms to do their work. The active organism in this is, as far as I know, the most active organism is lactobacillus, which is on our skin, it's on our plants. Yeah, this juice is covering. That's wonderful. That's what I want to see. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this jar up and I'll show you. And I want to show you, before we stop, I want to show you the kraut that I did last week. And I will tell you this. I started tasting it at day 4. At day 1, 24 hours later, after I packed it like I'm doing this one, it was fermenting. Bubbles were coming up. Bubbles were coming up. And I had it, even though with that this little jobby, this vent, and I put just like a screw lid down like you would on any canning jar, and that holds it in place. Well, the bubbles were coming up and it was allowing it to go ahead, not through this lets the gases escape, but it didn't hold it down enough that it didn't come up and start coming out of the jar. And I had it sitting on my countertop, and it was not maybe even 24 hours I noticed liquid on my countertop. So I wiped it down, smelled it, and thought, that smells like salt water, salty water, or taste it. And I tasted it, it tastes like salt water. So then by day 3, I took not a metal spoon, but I took a plastic clean, very clean spoon, and I took a taste. So you got to remove some things and keep them really clean, and because you're going to put them back in. And I took a little taste, and it actually, it tasted good. Now, it didn't taste like sauerkraut. Today is day 7. It will ferment at a higher rate if your house is really warm. If your house is cool, mine sometimes in my kitchen where I've got it, I'm sure it gets up to 75, almost 80 degrees sometimes. If I've got all the burners going and stuff roaring and cooking, it's really, at that point, it's really going to ferment pretty fast. And you want it to be a little cooler than that. It's not going to hurt it, but I like the process to just kind of go along as it needs to be. Now, everything I've read and heard is like check it at about 5 days or 7 days, depending on what you see going on in here, because you'll see those little bubbles coming up. My bubbling stopped, probably day before yesterday. It stopped. It's still fermenting, but it's not, the gases aren't working as much. The gases aren't, it's the bacillus that's working. The gases aren't coming out as much to make the bubbles come up, and you're not going to see it. It's still fermenting. And even when you finally cap this, I figure mine's going to be ready about 2 weeks, because it's like about 3 weeks is when people find the sweet spot. How they find that sweet spot is their eyes looking at it. And if you look and you see any sign of mold, and I'm not going to go into what you look for with the mold. You know mold when you see it if you can foods. When you see the mold, you got to get that out of there.
Or if I would see mold on the top of any of my fermentation foods, I personally would throw out the whole batch.
And I just skimmed it off and threw it away, and the peppers were fine. So my understanding is cabbage will do the same thing. I've not had that happen with cabbage. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this, and I'll show you how I top it off, and then I'll show you the week-old kraut that actually, depending on your taste, I like it tangy. I like kraut to be tangy, and I will store mine in my refrigerator. I don't have a cellar or anything. I'm not going to can it. It ruins the purpose of what I'm trying to achieve with this. With this, I'm wanting good health. I'm wanting gut health, and that good bacteria in our gut, they know that that causes lots of good things to happen in lots of organs in our body. Plus the wonderful amount of nutrients we get. And the bacillus in our bowel, actually even, they're saying that they think that it helps with some dementia. And I'm not making any claims about that. I'm just saying what I've read. So, not to make this like a 2-hour-long thing on kraut, because I'm no kraut expert. I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like and how I top it off, and then I'm gonna show you the kraut that's a week old. I think in another week it's probably gonna go in the fridge, and it can keep in the fridge a long time. It can. Some things limit it to like a year. I don't think I've had anything in there longer than a year, but you'll know when you look at it. Okay, so how it turned out is that head of cabbage had to be more than 2 pounds. The one last week was roughly 2 pounds, and it made a quart exactly. I've got a good quarter of a cabbage left. So I got some cabbage making going on today. Do you remember the clean leaves that I kept? Here's the reason. You take them, I'm going to pull this apart, and you put them down in here, and you cover this cabbage in the liquid. You're making a top out of it. And this is pretty stiff. It's maybe not wanting to cover it, but I'm going to have a weight to put on top of it. If you remember the little glass weight I showed you. Now, I had floaties last week, meaning up in the brine above the leaf, I had some cabbage floating, and it didn't cause it to ruin or anything. But, okay, so we've got, it's an excellent jar. And I'm not saying it because I did it. Not at all. It's just some days you do and some days you don't. And your cabbage heads one day is going to have more fluid, more liquid than another head of cabbage might. My next head of cabbage that I do was in a different garden bed, and it might not be as good. Who knows? So I just took the weight. I just put it right down on top of it. And then I'm going to put the nipple on. And the only thing I don't have that I didn't get out, I'm so sorry, is a ring. So let me get a ring and put it on top, and I'm going to grab that almost completed jar. Okay, so here's this. See the color of this? It's still got that real vibrant green because it just has come out of the garden. And that's another thing. I like to process foods as quickly as I get them out of the garden. I'm not always 100% on that, believe me. I've let tomatoes sit till I could get to them, you know, and cucumbers. But they have, my point is, they have the most natural fluids in them. They have the most natural sweetness. They also have more of the vitamins because they start breaking that all down pretty quick. So this is ready to go. Here's the jar that's a week old today. That's some really nice kraut, y'all. Really nice kraut. So, do you see the difference in the color? That's totally normal. Totally normal. So, I'm going to set this one back where I had it, and I'm going to put its new friend by it, and I'm going to take me a little coffee break or tea. Oh, I slurped. I hate that when I hear people do that. Sorry. So, I'm going to line these up, take a break, and then I'm going to come back and get at it. I'm going to go to the sink, and I'm going to start chopping. I'm going to get real serious. But look at the amount of kraut that I have left already from that one head. So I may end up with more jars than I anticipated today. I'm shooting for 10 jars of kraut, and I really hope that I hit that mark. So there's some great fermenting tips out there on YouTube, y'all. This is just Grammy showing you how she does kraut. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.